Good morning, everybody. How are you doing? As you can see, I am live in the garden today for Marketing Matters. It would be rude not to when it is the hottest day it's been in ages. So, I am to talk to the amazing Emily, who's from Free to Be Creative, about, oh, here she is, to talk about branding versus marketing. Hello, lovely. How are you doing?
Oh, very, very well. Very well. Not quite outside, but I've got my palm tree. I hope that counts.
It, it absolutely, little token palm tree. Love it. How are you doing today?
Very well. Do you know what? Some people are like, oh, I can't work because I'm inside, like, because outside's so sunny. I love it. It gives me so much inspiration and creativity.
I'm with you. I love it. Honestly, when it's sunny, I just feel like everything is better.
Yeah, it is. And you just feel like the sunshine in your soul comes out. You're like, oh, on a roll.
You're like, wow.
Yeah, and I've got a nice flowery outfit to match my mood. So.
Ah, well, look, thanks for coming on and chatting to me today. I know we meant to, but I wasn't very well, so thanks for bearing with me. Do you want to tell the guys a little bit about who you are and what you do before we get started?
Sure. Absolutely, yes. So I am Emily. I am the founder of Free to Be Creative. So my background was actually in corporate world in marketing, as many people do this. So I love the marketing, but not the corporate side and the lack of freedom to be creative, actually, not just the 9 to 5, where it actually ends up being sort of 7 till 10 sometimes in the corporate world.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, so basically I just thought, right, I went traveling, quit my job.
Love it.
And I went away, I went to Bali, Australia and Hong Kong and Singapore. And you know what? It just gave me this sense of like, do you know what? We are only on this earth once. So let's take a risk. Let's do it. So I started up my own business back in 2019 and I started off just doing VA work, which I think a lot of people do, but including marketing and socials. And I thought, actually, do you know what? This isn't giving me the same kick. You know, I need to do something more creative. So that's when I started to create an agency called Free to Be Creative. And we basically do design, branding and social media across the board, because I think it all ties into one. And I've got a little team and together we are working on about 20 clients. So it's fab. It's been great. So I absolutely love branding. And I want other people to eat, sleep, live, breathe their branding. You know, not just aesthetically, but digging down deeper, which I'm sure we'll come to later.
I love it. And I hadn't realised, I must admit, like the name of your business, which I've always, you know, because Emily and I work together, I'd always thought was about enabling me as a client to be free to be creative. But actually, it speaks to your story as well. So creating that freedom to do,
Absolutely.
I love it.
Yeah. And I've noticed you say freedom a lot in yours and obviously freedom architects and stuff. So it's like, connected.
Yeah.
So, love it.
And we love a little singy voice note as well.
We do. When I first spoke to Charlotte, we were like talking on the phone and she was like, I love that you're singing. I know we're going to get on well.
Fine. You know, because it can go either way, can't it? When you start singing, you can be
Absolutely.
like, oh, no.
I love it.
So when you, let's talk about the branding piece first then. So
Sure.
your clients from a branding perspective, where do you tend to focus? Because I mean, you know, branding is so important and it is completely different to marketing. I mean, do you differ for product or service based businesses, or do you have an approach?
Well, so because we work in an agency, I separate the two, because as you say, marketing, social media and branding are two very different things. We focus specifically on branding design. So the deeper bits, you know, I feel like you can't, some people come to me and I'm like, do you have a vision, mission, values? Do you have, you know, have you done the deep stuff? Do you know what your brand voice is? Do you know what your brand personality is? They don't know. And I can't, and I won't create a logo from nothing. You know, I need them to do the deep work. And so I can provide them with a logo that speaks to them, because branding isn't short term, branding's long term, which is the big key difference between branding and marketing. Is marketing is the short term, branding's long term.
Yeah.
Branding's the why, marketing is the how.
Mm-hmm.
So I very much have two separate packages for people, so that, you know, I can focus on that area for them. Because although, you know, with branding, it's all well and good, you know, creating a logo and stuff, you know, some people want that extra support, which is fine, absolutely fine. But I do tell them it's two very different things indeed.
Yeah, absolutely. And do you tend to come across people that are like new to this, they haven't got any branding, or is it more that you get people that come to you and are perhaps coming to you for socials like I did, and are then
Yeah,
thinking, you know, actually, and my brand needs a shake up as well?
absolutely. Do you know what? It's funny you say that. Loads of people don't even know they need a rebrand. They just go, after reading some of the content, I'm like, maybe my brand doesn't align with my business.
Yeah.
And you know what? It's funny. They go, oh, I didn't realize you do branding too. Oh my word, I definitely need a rebrand, Emily. Sometimes people are like, I want the whole package. Just go full on, go for it. And it's fantastic. And you know what? It's funny because some people do come to me purely for the branding, but then they realize later on, okay, great. Because we're creatives. We're a group of 3 women who just love to be creative, and help people in that area. Because I think a lot of people do struggle with so many ideas in their head and they can't implement the idea onto, I say paper, onto the computer.
What you meant.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, you know, when it comes to, well, to marketing and branding, I think, you know, people think about marketing and how it drives into sales, but they don't necessarily think about, you know, is my current branding actually doing what it needs to do to attract the right people? Or, you know, even sometimes
Yes.
our businesses grow and evolve all the time. So it
Yes.
makes sense that our brand identity and that customer, you know, how we're connecting with that customer, and even that customer journey changes as well.
Absolutely, yeah, it develops because, you know, I've been working with some people. I've rebranded myself, sort of recently, because your audience changes, and you know you dig deep into what you're actually about, and you go, actually it's just not aligned anymore, and you don't love it. And when you don't love it, people can tell. You know, you've got to love your branding as much as you want other people to love your branding, because it's infectious. It's what people come to you for. You know, they see something like a certain color and they go, oh, I know who I associate that with. Hopefully people who think green, Emily,
Yeah.
you know, or, you know, Charlotte, you know, with your pink, you know, the hot colors, you know, and it's just things like that that are really, really important. And as you say, they do evolve and they change. And so many people come to me and they go, I like my name and I like the business, but I need a refresh. So there's a difference between a rebrand, which is an overhaul, and a refresh. So 2 very different things indeed.
Yeah, and you know, that's a really important point. You know, when I first started in business, I remember thinking, I knew nothing about being self-employed. I've worked for corporates my whole life, and
Yes.
do my brand, which to me was my logo, which I am ashamed to say I created myself. Terrible. But
We all have.
like, do you remember like Dreamweaver websites and all that sort of stuff when you built like, yeah, let's not even.
Yes.
But you know, so obviously branding is so much more than just that logo. So for the people that are sitting there thinking, okay, so what does branding include? Do you have like, can you explain what branding is?
Oh, okay.
Sorry.
So this is like a kind of, not kind of worms. That's a horrible thing. But this is like a rabbit hole, shall we say? Rabbit hole. So what we need before the branding design is the branding strategy. So it's the external things and the internal things. So what I say to people is that branding's like an iceberg. So you can see there's like a level here, tiny bit at the top of the tip of the iceberg, and that's what the audience sees your brand as. And that is your logo, your fonts, your colors, your brand personality, your brand voice. That is what people see. But below that is a multitude of things that you actually need to have before you can do the top bit. So, you know, that can be mission, vision, values. It can be, you know, there's a million different things you can go through. And so actually we deal with the above the surface stuff, which is the design side of things. So we hope that people have the implementation before they come to us for the design work. Because, you know, we can't do everything. You know, we're an expert in design and branding. You know, the design part is what makes us tick, but that's what we're going to do best for you. And so, you know, we can't do everything at once. We can't, you know, be everything to everyone. And so, yeah, that's how I see branding. So do the deep work stuff first, get the strategy in place. Once you've got that, then we can start on the stuff, the pretty stuff.
The pretty stuff. We like the pretty stuff. I suppose that then is the design that brings your brand to life, right?
Yeah.
And I think it was Lisa Johnson that said to me, like, your branding is what people say about you when you're not in the room. And it's a bit
Yes,
like saying that people think about, I guess, like your values and the way that you do business, but also terminology you use, but
yeah,
about you and your green, or talking about freedom and the
yeah,
creative, that sort of stuff. I actually did a really great session with Nicole Smith earlier in the year where she helped me to do that deeper work, that sort of finding out what your why is and your messaging and who your ideal client is, so that then it can feed into that branding. Because that's
absolutely.
about right. That inner work, that deeper work needs to be done before someone comes to you and goes, actually, now you create me all this pretty stuff. Because otherwise, how can you know where to start?
And you know, to be controversial, it's meaningless. Like a logo without all that stuff, you know, it's not something that we can, you know, just fluff up and do on Canva. Like, no, 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 no. I'm against Canva logos, and I'm really sorry to everyone I've just offended.
Said it here.
But we are really strong that if you're starting out your business, Canva logos, fine, absolutely fine, because you need to start somewhere. I get it. But once you are an established and developed business, you need to be going to people who are using advanced software, because people don't understand the rules behind, you know, branding. You've got to buy the fonts, you've got to buy, you know, you've got to do, you can't do any copywriting. Anything you get from Canva is someone else's work. And it's all about, you know, starting from scratch and doing something so bespoke using Adobe Illustrator or such like. And it takes skill, you know, it takes skill to do branding. You know, I've done so many courses over the years, and it's not something you can, you know, muster up on Canva in 5 minutes. It's something that's a lot different, you know, with you as well, you know, with marketing, you know, like people give out all this advice, but I mean, it's the courses, it's the experience that gets you to where you are today, and you can call yourself an expert.
Yeah, absolutely. Couldn't agree more. I'm just trying to figure out whether I've ever created a Canva logo.
I have when I first started, so I'm catching myself out here. I am not pointing fingers. I did it too. And it's fine at the start, because it really is, you know, when you're first starting, you know, because I'm a perfectionist, and if it's not perfect, it's not going out there. But then if nothing's going out, nothing's going to happen in your business. So
No.
I get it. You have to start out somewhere, and that is absolutely fine. But I mean, it's like you wouldn't go to McDonald's and or a big brand, or Apple, or, you know, anything at all, Louis Vuitton, you know, all of their branding is you can tell it's super bespoke. They've really dug into their audience, and they've used the brand archetypes. I know that you've done yours recently as well, Charlotte. Yes. There's 12 different brand archetypes, and it's really fun, guys. If you haven't done it yet, go and do it. It's amazing, and it asks you a series of questions about your branding and which branding archetype you are, and that's a really good start of, you know, where you can go with your branding. You know, what are you? I'm an explorer. I know you're the jester.
Right.
And, you know, and that's why Charlotte has the fun, bright colours. You know, that's why her language is fun. That's why she come across as in that way. You know, it all interlinks. And it comes down to, you know, the archetype that you are and the strategy you put behind it as well. So I'm a firm believer of that.
I'm loving this, and it just, to me, it hammers home like the importance of just meaning behind the brand, or meaning behind the logo as well. Because as I say, I think in the outset, people can be like even like logos become more important, right, than the name of the business. They're thinking about, how do I want my logo to be? But actually, all of this stuff, this deeper work that you need to do beforehand, feeds into it, and that's for a very good reason, in that it's going to ensure that your way of working is coming across, and the people that you are looking to attract can really get to know what you're about.
Yeah. And people fall in love with brands. You know, I was saying the other day, you know, Joe Malone has a massive following. I mean, and the market, I mean, but they have to come across luxury, and they want people to buy into their brand. You know, that's where they can charge more.
Yeah.
You know, they've got that following, and they know who their audience is. You know, it's amazing. Like, you know, when I first started, I thought, oh, who are my competitors? I know that some people don't like the word competitor, which is absolutely fine. But I think it is good to look at your competitors, your objectives, your audience. You know, what do your audience need? Not just what they want. What you know, what you want to tell them, sorry. It's what do they need? What do they need to see from you? And part of that is building that relationship and that like, know, and trust, which comes through your branding.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And it's interesting when you talk about the competition point, because I know there's loads of people that would do that. It's collaboration, not competition. Whereas I like I'm a believer in there's space for collaboration, but there's space for competition as well.
Yeah.
Have to be competitive in an arsey way, but it means that, you know, we understand there are competitors out in the world, but it will be some people and not for others. And that's what it's all about. We need that competition as well.
Yeah.
Not
It keeps you on your toes.
Yeah, exactly. You don't want to work with every single client that comes your way.
No, no, absolutely. You know, and I've recently become a lot more picky with who I'm working with. And I know it's like slightly going off topic of branding, but it's so important that you're putting out the content that your dream audience wants to see. You know, it's all well and good, you know, jumping on trends, but actually, is that going to harm your business's reputation? Is it on brand? Is the reel on brand, or are you just doing it because it's fun?
Yeah, exactly.
You know?
I talk about this a lot in the digital marketing stuff I do, that yeah, you can jump on those real trends, but actually if it's not aligned with your ideal client, you're not building that audience with the people that you actually are going to be able to sell to from a, you know, language, tone, price point of view, then it's just a waste of time and it can do more harm than good.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. And again, if it's strategic, it'll be in your plan and there'd be no need to suddenly just do a reel. You know, you'll think about it and you'll talk about it. You know, hopefully if you've got a team, you can talk it through your team. If you haven't got a team, fine. Talk about it with a, you know, a buddy or a business bestie. Or, you know, that's really cringe, isn't it? Or an accountability partner. I need to get a new one actually, but I have had an accountability partner for a while. And it's really great because you can just bounce things off each other when you haven't got a team, and it's just amazing. And you can say to them, look, guys, you know, what do you think to my new branding? What do you think to, you know, this reel? Do you think it's on brand, or is, you know, it's a bit controversial? What do you think? I like a bit of controversial stuff in my content, but I do analyze whether it's going to harm my brand or not.
Yeah. Well, that sounds pretty sensible.
Yeah. Well, you'd be surprised. Things I see at them, I'm like,
you're doing that? Yes. Really? You know, that's for them to make as their own business decision.
Yeah. Well, absolutely. Yeah. Totally.
I know you talk a lot, Emily, about kind of eating and drinking and breathing your brand. So tell me a little bit about what you mean when you say that.
So I think for me, it's you've got this amazing sort of like branding, and when you turn up, your energy is a bit bleh, and people aren't inspired by that. And so what I mean by this is, like, if you're out on holiday, you know, get those snaps, you know, do a little video and let them into your world. What, not just what happens in your business, but what happens in your world as Charlotte, as Emily, you know, because people want inspiration. They want behind the scenes. They are nosy. People are nosy. They want to know what goes on. And so when I say eat, sleep, breathe, is like, you know, I want them to embody their brand and not just whack out a post and kind of forget about it, but really connect their audience with their inside world and what's going on. What makes you tick, you know? And people will go, oh yeah, I remember she loves cats, or, you know, oh yeah, she went on that holiday. And people bond over that. And it's social media, you know, and, you know, people forget the social part sometimes, don't they? And I just think it's really, really, really great when you see people on holiday and you see people just going about their everyday life, just embodying who they are as a brand. And, you know, because at the end of the day, you know, you, Charlotte, as a jester archetype, brand archetype, you are fun, and you can tell, and in your, how the way you turn up, the way you show yourself to people. And that is what I mean by eat, sleep and breathing.
Love it. And yeah, you're right. Fun's a huge part of my life. Although I think my children would argue that I'm not in any way funny. I'm just embarrassing. So that one.
As every kid, though, I'm sure.
I think it's only been since my son's like, he's coming up for 10, so now he's just like, oh my god, you know, was that a mum joke? Yes, it was. Yes, it was. It's but you're right. I think we are, all of us are nosy, and through the medium of social media, we can you know, demonstrate those areas of our lives that do help people to understand the brand and to bond with us. But also, you know, you can do aspirational stuff as well. I remember I started doing reels and stories and things, and I've not been on Instagram really that long at all, only since last year. And you know, my VA at the time was like, you need to be sharing this, you need to be sharing this. I felt like I was sharing too much, but people loved it. They wanted to know the behind the scenes stuff,
Yeah.
and me packing a suitcase and what my Bengal cat was doing. Like, this is what people do bond over. It's real life, right?
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Because, you know, it's all well and good popping out loads of like, you know, educational stuff and value stuff, but sometimes it's just nice to see you being you behind the scenes, doing what you do, what makes you tick. You know, why did you start your business? That's a big one that people forget about. You know, for me, it was my dad who sadly passed away, and it really gave me the inspiration and the drive and the motivation to start this business. And that for me is my core purpose. And everyone, I'm sure, has a core purpose to why they started their brand.
Yeah, and sorry to hear about your dad.
No, absolutely.
But you're right, it's things like that that do end up having that hook. And I, you know,
Yeah.
about doing stuff for my socials, like I've got a big thing about creating our own freedom, because I was denied flexible working at my workplace, which is how I ended up being freelance. I was never ever going to be self-employed. That was, you know, that was for other people. But actually that kind of, my hand was forced a little bit in that I couldn't stay in that job, so I needed to do that. So I'm really passionate about people helping, you know, people creating businesses where they can have that freedom, and they don't have to pick and choose between, particularly like around being a mother or a father, and having to work as well. But also, as you know, I suffer with anxiety and depression. So for me, having a flexible business and helping other people that suffer with that to have flexible businesses is at the core of our purpose. And that is the stuff that also helps us to, that's part of my brand. And obviously that's part of your brand as well.
Yeah.
Know about that. That's what helps connect us with them. So
absolutely, absolutely. So for you, so just switching it over from, you know, branding side, marketing side, what do you think is the key difference between marketing and branding?
I agree. I think marketing is where you're getting out there and getting visible, and you are building a connection with people around your business. Whereas for me, the brand is about the permanence, sort of representation of who you are and what you do, both you as a person. I think there's a personal brand, and then also your business itself. So the marketing's the moving bit that can be focusing on different bits and different areas at different times, but your brand is a permanent sort of stamp as to who you are and what you do.
Yeah, 100%, completely agree. I saw this really great thing that I think it was Dane Walker. He is like my inspiration for branding, and I see his stuff, I'm like, oh, it makes so much sense. And it was, branding is the why, it's the long term, it builds loyalty, it's the being, and it keeps attention. The marketing is the how, the short term, builds response, the doing, and gets attention. And I'm like, bing. All makes sense. Yeah, mic drop. And it's so true. It is so true, because a marketing campaign can have its own sort of, you know, aesthetics and branding, and then, you know, and you move on to another campaign, you know, and it might be for two complete different audiences. It might be high ticket, it might be low ticket, but the branding part of it is always got to stay the same, because again, it's loyalty. It's, you want to make sure people are coming to you again and again and again as the expert in your field.
Yeah, absolutely. And you've just made me think, a bit like you're sort of saying you wouldn't ever go and start creating logos or branding for people that had no understanding of kind of the deeper stuff that goes into it.
Yeah.
Like when I get people coming to me, I need to know what their brand is. I need to know their colors, their fonts, their mission, all of that, their language, their tone of voice, all of that sort of stuff needs to be there so that we can create marketing that's actually going to land in the right way.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's going to connect with their audience. You know, is if I see branding that's off brand, like, so if I see a business that's gone off brand, I go, oh, have they had a refresh, or are they just experimenting? And you kind of, you lose them a little bit along the way, and you go, if you keep rebranding again and again and again, people aren't going to stay loyal, and, you know, they're going to go somewhere else where it's consistent. I mean, consistency, everyone talks about consistency in showing up, consistency on posting, consistency on email marketing. It's the same with the branding. It's got to be consistent. And when I say that, I mean not just social media, but websites, email newsletters, any platform you show up on, we should know the branding. wherever it may be.
Yeah. And this is such a timely chat because as you well know, I went through a rebrand sort of session earlier in the year, and I'm going through that sort of change in terms of, you know, for anyone looking at this, if you scroll back far enough in my Instagram, you'll see the difference in the colors and the language and stuff that I'm using. And it is that, I think that is also something sometimes that puts people off doing it because they're worried about that change in tone of voice or change in colors or whatever else it is. But it was important for me to go, actually what I'm doing now, my branding is not you know, in any way reflecting who I'm working with and how I'm helping them and who I'm for. So it was time to change it. So, you know, if people are sat there thinking, oh my God, I've listened to this conversation and I don't know who I am, or I don't know what I stand for, I don't know any of this stuff. Like, do you have any advice for where they should start?
Yeah, so this is actually on my to-do list, but I really, really want to build a black book. Is that what they call it? A black book?
Yeah,
of people I can refer other people to, where we don't do that in our own agency. Mm-hmm. We don't do everything because you can't be a master of everything, you know. And so I want to build a black book, which I will be sharing really, really soon, of people I trust, that I've worked with, that I know are fantastic at their jobs. I actually know where you can start. Melissa Matson is amazing. I don't know if you've done a live with her before.
Haven't, no.
She's fantastic, and she is a branding coach, and she goes into all of this sort of reasoning and, you know, mission, values, your why, and she puts that all together with you, and she's fantastic. So if you're ready to invest, I'd say start there, and once you've got that document, we would love to work with you if, you know, we're the right fit. We'd love, you know, that's something that I love to do, is work with other people and experts and refer on, because I'm all about referring to people who are experts in their area. You know, if anyone talks about automations or funnels, obviously straight away I think of you. Whenever I think of those words, I think of you. So obviously you've done a good job. But I very much think, sit down somewhere. Do you know what? Actually, screw that. Get out the house. Okay. Get yourself a notebook and a pen. Go somewhere that inspires you, right? Pop in some music if you want. Get your nice coffee or drink, whatever. And sit somewhere that inspires you and just write down why you started your business. Why did you first start your business? And write that down. Then think about other question yourself about, you know, who do you really want to work with? Who is your dream client and where do they hang out? Think about that. Think about your mission. What do you set out to do? What's your vision? What do you hope to achieve in the years to come? What are your goals? What do you want to do by, you know, the end of this year? You know, how do you want to show up to people? What's your brand archetype? And again, there's loads and loads of quizzes online that you can do to find out what it is. And just research, you know, research your competitors, research everything like that. And then once you've got that information, you can then start on the aesthetics of the brand. And I think that's the only way you can do it. And, you know, you've got to be inspired. And if you're finding it hard to be inspired, there are people that will help. So there's a couple of ways there to help you get you kick-started. But it all goes down to your why, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think, you know, certainly I love everything you just said, and I think it resonates so much. It's like, what I don't think I really appreciated was how much my business why was tied in with my personal why, and why that's important. I've just said why too many times, but you know what I mean.
Yes, I love it. I love it. And I love it so much. Yeah. And again, the difference between personal branding, there's a difference between, you know, personal branding for sure. And the way you show up in that is completely different. And, you know, that's another massive thing I can't go into now because it's way too deep. We haven't got time. But you know, I'm going to do a post about it soon, actually. So I'll share a little bit more about that. But absolutely, the why is the reason, you know, you started your business. And from there, you can build and build and build and build and build. And you know what? By doing that deeper work stuff, you feel like you're set free. Like, oh, it's clicks now. And, oh, I'm really happy. And you've got to be happy with that stuff, because otherwise you'll keep changing, you know, your brand every 5 seconds because you're like, oh, it doesn't fit. Oh, it doesn't fit. Oh, I don't quite know who my audience is. You know, by doing that stuff, hopefully that branding will stay with you for a while until you're ready to move on, until you've got a new audience, you've developed your business, you're more established, and you're ready for a refresh or a rebrand. Absolutely fine. Love a good refresh. But it's the consistent, when I said before about this, it was the consistent changing. That's what I meant by that.
Yeah, makes complete sense. Oh, this has been amazing. I feel like I could sit in the sun and talk with you for ages, and we genuinely could, couldn't we? But
we probably could, yes.
One left online watching us anymore. Genuinely, this has been really, really helpful. And guys, if you don't follow Emily and Free to Be Creative online, you really should. She knows her stuff. She's amazing, and she's bloody lovely, as you can see as well. So go follow her on Instagram and everywhere else she is. So just have a lovely rest of your day, my love. And yeah, thanks to everyone for joining us. And I'll be back next Wednesday at 11 o'clock for Marketing Matters. But for now, have a lovely day, my dear.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, not at all. See you later.
Bye.